Tonight, let us be very quiet and very clear. The problem is not the night. The problem is the mind's labor, the ceaseless little engine that insists on solving tomorrow while the body is pleading for rest. Now just try to follow this. Night is not your adversary. Darkness is not an enemy. The bedroom is not a battlefield. The warfare is a habit of mental effort, a strain to manage life, to rehearse, to review, to protect, to protect. And please remember, that very strain is the one thing that bars the door to rest. Sleep is not produced by solving. Actually, there is no relationship between the two. They are entirely separate and distinct. Solving belongs to the daylight of human planning. Rest belongs to the presence that is here before thought and after thought and without thought. Oh, no, no, no. You cannot think your way into sleep any more than you can push your way into silence. The more you push, the more you prove you believe in your own power to compel peace, and that belief is the noise that keeps you awake. We are not coming to this hour as sufferers, begging a lucky relief that sometimes comes and sometimes does not. We come as students, as disciples, to learn a principle that can be counted on. Not a trick, not a superstition, a principle. Peace precedes sleep. Presence precedes peace. And human effort is not the cause of either. If we do not know this principle, we will toss between hope and despair. If we do know it, harmony will be repeatable, not occasional. Now then, relax. Not to fix tomorrow, but to rest in God now. Hear that again, slower. Now then, relax. Not to fix tomorrow, but to rest in God now. Please remember, this is not a technique to coax the body. It is a surrender of the claim that the mind must govern the night. It is holy non-doing. It is trust without object, resting without argument, letting omnipresence be enough. I will promise you structure. In this meeting, there will be a timed 7-minute release, a practice you can return to nightly, not as a charm, not as a sedative, but as a simple obedience to truth. Here and now, God is. We will enter it together so you may carry it alone, and not be alone. Insomnia feeds on your attempt to solve life. Rest begins the moment that effort is dropped. How do we drop it? By granting no power to the thinking that claims necessity. By withdrawing allegiance from the little engineer of outcomes and consenting to what is already present. God is, and that's enough to know. God is, that's all. When presence is acknowledged, tension is dismissed without struggle, and the body, yes, even this human frame with its nerves and rhythms, yields to the peace that does not come from thought. So tonight, we stop solving life. We lay down the pen that writes tomorrow, and we do it now. Breathe without opinion. Let the shoulders fall without measuring. Let the mind have no assignment. Now then, relax. Not to fix tomorrow, but to rest in God now. And we will go on from here into the practice that seals this knowing in you. Now just try to follow this, because it is the axis on which the whole night turns. The great mistake, the one that makes the darkness heavy and the clock loud, is this: treating God as a late-night assistant hired to fix tomorrow, to adjust your plans, to reassure your fears, to deliver you into sleep when you are ready. Oh, no, no, no. Please remember, you dishonor the nature of God when you reduce the infinite to an errand runner for your future. God is not a helper for what comes next. God is presence now. Actually, there is no relationship between the two. They are entirely separate and distinct systems of reliance. One is bargaining with time and human will. The other is surrender into what eternally is. Listen, and let it correct you with love. God does not give peace. God is peace. God does not send rest. God is rest. God does not deliver you into sleep. God is the stillness in which sleep occurs. If you seek a dose of peace from a distant deity to smooth your tomorrow, you will miss the peace that is God here. If you ask for rest as a commodity, you postpone it, because rest is not given. It is realized as God present. Please remember this. God is, and that's enough to know. God is, that's all. Now see the nightly bargaining for what it is. If I can just figure this out, if I can line up these emails, if I can rehearse that conversation, then I can rest. That is divided reliance, half in spirit, half in the personal mind. And a house divided cannot rest. You are granting reality to the little engineer and then asking God to rubber stamp its plans. Oh no. The moment you say, "Then I can rest," you have placed peace after a human condition. You have pushed God into later. And later never arrives because later is not a place where God can be found. Omnipresence is not poetry. It is practice. Omnipresence means there is no later where God arrives with a parcel marked peace. Omnipresence means here, on this breath, in this room, within this very awareness, God is. Here and now, God is. Where then will you go to find rest? Where else is there? Not in the next solution, not in the next thought, not in the next minute. Here. Therefore, the work is not to reach God, not to summon, not to persuade, not to improve yourself until you qualify. The work is to relax into the assurance that God already is. To relax both mentally and physically, not as a technique to manipulate the body, but as an obedience to truth. When you cease treating God as helper for tomorrow and recognize God as presence now, the night becomes gentle. Peace precedes sleep, as cause precedes effect. And so we make our one movement. We stop the bargaining. We abandon the divided allegiance. We rest in God as God is. And we let the stillness that already is be sufficient. Here and now, God is. Thank you. Now just try to follow this. In this same bedroom, this same pillow, this same breath, there are two kingdoms present. The world files in with its papers and its noise, the headlines and opinions, the markets up and down, the schedules, the children's needs, the parents' worry, the body's signals, the neighbor's words, the unanswered message, the bill that comes due, the diagnosis Googled at midnight. And the world demands a hearing. It whispers, "Rehearse me, or be unsafe." Oh no, no, no. Please remember, there is another presence here. Not arriving, not pending, here. My peace, not as the world giveth, not at the mercy of conditions, but the kingdom within. The invisible sanctuary in which rest is identity, not achievement. Two kingdoms in the same bedroom. One cannot lie down in both. Actually, there is no relationship between the two. They are entirely separate and distinct modes of reliance. One asks you to keep the courtroom open at midnight, while the mind brings its catalog of cases. Physical, pulse, pain, pressure, hormones. Mental, plans, regrets, possibilities, disasters. Moral, should have, shouldn't have, apologies rehearsed, innocence defended. Financial, ledgers, balances, contingencies, scarcity, windfalls imagined. Relational, text messages, tones of voice, stories told about you and by you. Case after case after case, as if peace were a verdict to be won by better argument. The other kingdom dismisses the court altogether. Be still and know that I am God. Not be clever, not be persuasive. Be still. Now then, please remember this point, because it is your freedom. You cannot simultaneously rehearse catastrophe and rest in omnipresence. You cannot dwell in the world's rehearsal and taste the kingdom's peace at the same time. You must choose where you will abide. And I am not offering you a technique to knock out a brain. We are not anesthetists of the intellect. We are disciples learning a principle. Rest is the effect of realized presence. Presence first, peace. Peace first, sleep. The order cannot be reversed without losing the whole. So what is our choice? Not to fight thoughts, never wrestle shadows. We relocate identity. We withdraw our citizenship from the midnight court, and we take up residence in God. I dwell in the secret place of the Most High. Let the mind bring its stacks to an empty bench. There is no judge there. We are not the clerk of the world's cases. We are the temple of the living God. And in a temple, there is no docket. There is only altar and silence, and the light that needs no bulb. Can we really think two masters at once? If God is, how can we fear the newspaper? If God is the very presence of peace, how can we grant power to a thought about tomorrow? We have empowered these images. We can disempower them by the simple act of non-reliance. We do not improve them. We do not denounce them. We just do not live there. Choice. Abide. Now follow this, quietly. Right here, within this awareness, not later, not after the last email is imagined answered. Here and now, God is. Relax into that, not to silence the world, but because the world has no jurisdiction where you dwell. The kingdom within is not a mood, it is reality recognized. When we choose it, we do not beat the other down, we forget it for lack of interest. And as interest dissolves, effort dissolves. As effort dissolves, peace appears. And as peace appears, sleep follows of itself. God is, and that's enough to know. God is, that's all. Now then, please remember this, because it is a very gentle key that turns a heavy door. What keeps you awake is not the presence of thoughts. It is the claim that thought has power. Thoughts are like birds crossing a sky that does not move. They come, they go. They sing, they squawk. They are not the bondage. The bondage is the belief that your thinking is necessary for survival and safety. That unless you keep watch, danger will slip in and steal your peace. Oh, no, no, no. That is the old worship of a false power. Wakefulness persists when we grant power to thought. Peace returns when we grant all power to presence. Ask yourself and answer it at once. If God is, what is the necessity for the personal mind to patrol the night? None at all. If omnipresence is, where can danger be located? Nowhere, because no place remains outside of God. If the kingdom is within, what enemy can breach awareness to injure the one who is being itself? None. Can we really suppose that vigilance of the human mind is the guardian of life while the infinite rests? He that keepeth Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. If God is keeping, why must you keep? If God is all, who stands apart to threaten? There is no apart. There is no outside. There is God. The hidden fear goes something like this. If I stop thinking, I will lose control. Please let that be seen and laid down. Control is not safety. Presence is safety. Control is strain. Presence is rest. Control is a hand clenched around shadow. Presence is the light in which shadow dissolves. You cannot steer the night into peace by gripping it harder. You cannot secure tomorrow by sentencing yourself to labor now. My peace is not manufactured. It is received by non-effort, realized as what already is. My peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth. Not by plan, not by personal watch, not by the clock's consent. Now follow this. We are not going to battle thoughts. We are going to retire their authority. How? By recognizing God as the only presence and the only power here. God is. God is. God is. Not as a hypnosis, not as a chant to override thinking, but as a quiet recognition that unseats fear from its imaginary throne. Every time you notice the mind reaching for control, please remember, the need is not to think better thoughts. The need is to rely wholly on the one who is. Actually, there is no relationship between human thinking and divine safety. They are entirely separate and distinct orders. One is tension trying to be God. The other is God being God. In a moment, we will prove this to ourselves in the only way that matters: experience. We will step into 7 minutes of holy non-effort, relaxing mentally and physically in the assurance that here and now, God is. We will not improve a single condition. We will not push a single thought. We will not negotiate with a single fear. We will simply abide where safety already is. And in that abiding, peace will announce itself without our assistance, and sleep, when it comes, will be its quiet effect. God is, and that's enough to know. God is. That's all. Now then, let us be very plain about the discipline of this night, because it is a holy discipline and not a nervous strategy. Holy non-interference. Please remember that phrase. Non-interference. Not analysis, not planning, not reviewing conversations, not rehearsing outcomes, not diagnosing your own body, not checking the clock. Oh, no, no, no. Every one of those is the old allegiance to a false authority, the little engineer trying to manage life at midnight. We are not mechanics under the hood of a soul. We are temples of the living God, and in a temple there is no wrench, no clipboard, no stopwatch. There is only presence. What is non-interference? It is the refusal to supervise what God already ordains. The body has a God-ordained rest, a rhythm not given by your will and not sustained by your opinion. You do not have to monitor breaths to breathe, just as you do not have to count heartbeats to live. He that keepeth Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. If God is keeping, why must you keep? Please remember this. Every time you lean over your own pillow with anxious attention, checking, fixing, managing, you crowd the altar with effort, and you eclipse the light that needs no candle. Non-interference is humility in action. Step back, withdraw the personal hand, and let what is be what is. Now follow this, because it is the trap that has kept many awake. Measuring blocks rest. The very moment you ask, "Am I asleep yet?" you have risen from the temple bench and returned to the court of time. The moment you turn the phone to see 1:13 or 2:47, you have enthroned a clock as your shepherd, and no clock can lead you beside still waters. Actually, there is no relationship between measuring and peace. They are entirely separate and distinct orders. One belongs to the kingdom of effort, where progress is tallied and failures are recorded. The other belongs to the kingdom within, where peace is not accumulated but realized. When you measure, you certify time as your ruler. When you rest in God, time has no jurisdiction, and sleep, when it appears, is merely an effect, not a trophy earned by counting. And now, secrecy and humility. Do not skip this, for it is the way the Father works. Enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. Keep your troubles bottled up, not to repress, but to refuse to parade them before the personal mind for another midnight trial. Stop arguing your case to yourself. Stop telling the inner jury why you are tired, why you deserve rest, why tomorrow will be hard. Oh no. Be silent. Let the Father in secret be the knower of all conditions. Be grateful if you have no understanding at 2 a.m. His understanding is infinite. Humility closes the mouth of the manager and opens the heart to presence. So here is our spiritual hygiene, and please take it as commandment for the night. Stop fixing. Stop measuring. Stop checking. Not analysis, not planning, not reviewing, not clock watching. Holy non-interference. Let presence be sufficient. God is, and that's enough to know. God is, that's all. Now then, we are going to enter the closet, not a place but a consciousness, where secrecy is safety, humility is strength, and peace is already present, awaiting only our consent. Now then, relax. Not to get a result, not to win sleep as a trophy. Relax as obedience to truth. Sit or lie in a posture that is natural to you. No display, no performance, only consent. Hands easy, face soft, breath unmonitored. Please remember, the aim of this 7 minutes is communion, not achievement. Now then, relax. Hear it again as permission, not command. Now then, relax. Let us begin with the body, not to fix it, but to stop commanding it. Forehead, soften. Let the skin forget it has a job. Around the eyes, loosen the tiny guardians that think seeing is a duty in the dark. Jaw, unhinge the courtroom. Let the teeth stand apart without argument. Tongue, rest from shaping sentences. Shoulders, allow them to descend as if a yoke were lifted. Chest, no managing of breath. It is breathing without you. Belly, untie it from the day's belt. Hips, thighs, calves, feet, release the stance of readiness. Oh, no, 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 not to secure sleep, simply to cease supervision. Let the body be the temple bench, not the work site. Now the mind. Notice the reaching to finish, to conclude, to solve what insists it must be solved before rest. Do not push it away. See it and set it down as you would a bundle at the door of the sanctuary. The conversation rehearsed, the numbers, the list, the apology, the defense, unfinished and safe. Please remember, safety does not come from completion. Safety is presence. Let tonight be the night an unfinished world is allowed to be unfinished without guilt. Here and now, God is. Let it be slow. Here and now, God is. Allow a little silence to widen after each word. Here, where you are, not elsewhere. Now, not then, not when, not later. God is. Again, softer. Here and now, God is. Say it within, then stop saying it, and notice what remains when the words fall away. Be still and know. Not think, know. The knowing does not argue. I dwell in God. Not going to, not striving toward. I dwell in God. Identity, not effort. If thoughts pass by, weather. If feelings move, weather. The dwelling is not disturbed by weather. I dwell in the secret place of the Most High. Let that be acknowledged without decoration. I am not the keeper of the night. I am kept. Thank you. Not as payment, not as leverage, not thank you so that. Thank you as surrender to what already is. Thank you that presence is presence without my help. Thank you that peace is not manufactured, but recognized. Thank you that this room is holy, not because it is quiet, but because God is. Thank you. Thank you. My peace. My peace. Hear it as given, not earned. My peace. Let the breath lengthen of itself, uncoached. My peace. No measuring, no checking. My peace. Permission to drift, to float, to rest without evaluating rest. My peace. My peace. And if the eyes remain open, you have not failed. The peace is the success, and peace is the true healing. Return to this nightly. One practice, one reliance, one recognition. Here and now, God is. God is, and that's enough to know. God is, that's all. Thank you. Thank you. Now just try to follow this, because it will spare you a world of discouragement. The mind may return loud at minute 12. It may parade at 2:10 a.m. It may do its whole show the third night in a row. Please remember, this is not failure. This is not a test you have flunked. It is simply another invitation to choose where you will abide. Every return of thought is one more knock at the same door, and the answer does not change. Oh, no, no, no. Tonight we are not solving life. Here and now, God is. When you hear the racket begin, do not brace. Do not tighten. Speak within, gently, as one who knows a principle. Oh, no, no, no. Tonight we are not solving life. Here and now, God is. Then, without drama, let the body unsupervise again. Forehead soft, jaw easy, shoulders lowered from their imaginary duty, breath uncoached. We are not forcing quiet. We are consenting to what already is. God is, and that's enough to know. God is, that's all. Now the common temptations. The clock winks, the phone glows. The rehearsal starts up like a band. Please remember, these are not powers. They are invitations back into time and effort. Actually, there is no relationship between the clock and peace. They are entirely separate and distinct. The clock belongs to the courtroom of measurement. Peace belongs to the kingdom within. If the urge to check rises, notice it as weather and remain where you are. Do not scroll. Do not count. Do not bargain. Simply say, "Here and now God is," and roll inward from the window of time to the altar of presence. Understand the difference between suppressing and releasing. We do not shove thoughts down. We do not argue them into silence. We merely decline to employ them for safety. Thoughts may pass across awareness like birds across a sky. The sky does not recruit them to stand guard. We withdraw the hired watchman. We let God be God. Be still and know. Not think, know. And the knowing does not argue. What of 2:10 a.m.? The mind declares, "It's late. Now you'll be ruined tomorrow." Oh no, do not enter that contract. Return to the same principal word. Here and now, God is. Rest in God, not in predictions. What of the third night in a row? Do not build a story called My Insomnia. We are not historians of failure. We are disciples of a principle. Peace first, sleep second. We are not trying to force unconsciousness. We are resting in God, and so, resting in that peace, the body resumes its normal functions as effect. So each return is easy. Notice, refuse employment, re-choose omnipresence, relax without measuring, and abide. If sleep comes, it comes as a byproduct of peace. If eyes remain open a while, peace is still the success. One practice, one reliance, one recognition. Here and now, God is. My peace. My peace. Thank you. Now then, please remember the order of the night, because if you keep this order, you will not be shaken by clocks, nor by narratives of failure. Peace first, sleep second. The healing is peace. Sleep is often the outer sign that follows, but peace is the reality you can count on. If you make sleep the objective, you have stepped back into effort, into counting and coaxing and bargaining. Oh, no, no, no. That is the old contract with time. If you make communion the objective, God realized as presence now, then sleep appears as a byproduct, an effect with no strain in it. Now follow this, because it corrects a very old confusion. Many in the world seek unconsciousness and call it rest. They knock themselves senseless and call it peace. Actually, there is no relationship between anesthesia and the peace of God. They are entirely separate and distinct orders. The world's quiet is a pause between alarms. The kingdom's peace is the end of alarms. We are not students of sedation. We are disciples of spirit. Our work is not to force the body into stillness, but to rest in that peace in which the body naturally remembers its God-ordained rhythm. And so, resting in that peace, the body resumes its normal functions. Circulation unwinds. Breath lengthens uncoached. Digestion releases its clutch. The electrical storms of nerves find clear weather. And yes, sleep arrives as a servant, not a master. Seek ye first the kingdom, peace first, and all these things line up without our management. Please remember this, because it frees you from night after night of striving. When peace is felt, even a little, the healing has occurred. Whether the eyes close at once or linger open a while, you are safe. Do not let the mind tell you that peace without immediate sleep is failure. Oh no. Peace is the thing itself. Sleep is the footprint it leaves on sand. If the footprint delays, the traveler is still present. Abide the traveler. The footprint will trace itself. And now broaden your view without taking up one new problem. Some of you bring grief to the pillow. Some bring a loneliness that echoes in the ribs. Some bring pressure, the ledger, the deadlines. Some bring decision fatigue, the question that refuses to settle. Do not turn these into tonight's cases to argue. We are not in the courtroom. We are in the temple. Bring them as offerings, not puzzles. Lay them down without commentary. Communion is the answer that requires no sentence. Peace is the balm that needs no plan. In that communion, grief is not denied, it is held. Loneliness is not solved, it is companioned. Pressure is not optimized, it is softened. The undecided path is not forced, it is illumined in its hour. Everything in its order. Peace as cause, harmonies as effect. So fix the covenant in your heart. Not, I must sleep, but I seek peace, I rest in presence. Not, I must solve, but I abide. Not, when this is answered, then peace, but here and now God is, and peace is the answer. And as we keep that order, we cannot be disappointed, because peace does not make appointments with time. Peace is. Let this be our closing assurance tonight and every night. Peace first, sleep second. God is. God is. And that's enough to know. God is. That's all. Now just try to follow this, because it will steady your nights for a lifetime. Make a quiet decision, not a vow of perfection, not a contract with the clock, but a covenant of reliance. One practice, one reliance, one recognition. Each night we return to the same altar, and we do not drag the courtroom in with us. Please remember this. We do not mix spirit with frantic mental labor. Actually, there is no relationship between the two. They are entirely separate and distinct. One belongs to the world of management and measurement. The other belongs to the kingdom of presence. Choose. Abide. Now then, the simple structure. No ceremony, no performance. Lights down, devices face down, out of sight. No clock checking. Oh, no, no, no. Do not confer with time. Time cannot shepherd you to still waters. Sit or lie as you will, and enter the 7-minute release exactly as we have. Relax both mentally and physically in the assurance that here and now, God is. Not to get, not to fix, not to hypnotize, only to consent. When the 7 minutes have ripened, let them dissolve into silence. No extra prayers to persuade, no new affirmations to accumulate. Silence, because God is. And if wakefulness appears later, do not unfold the toolkit. Repeat only the essence. Relax, withdraw supervision, and know, here and now, God is. That is all. That is enough. Please remember secrecy and humility. because they are the gate through which grace moves. Enter the closet, consciousness, not a room, and shut the door on explanation. Do not advertise your practice. Do not argue for it. Do not make it a performance for approval. Thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. Keep your covenant hidden from the vanity that loves to measure and report. Be grateful if you have no words to say. His understanding is infinite. In the silence, presence is presence without your opinion of it. Make the covenant plain within yourself, night by night. Tonight we are not solving life. Here and now, God is. Tonight I withdraw my hand from the levers and I rest in the one who keeps. Tonight peace is my first, and sleep, if and when it comes, is effect. If I wake, I will not bargain. I will return. If thoughts parade, I will not employ them. I will return. One practice, one reliance, one recognition. And then gratitude, not as sentiment, not as leverage, gratitude as recognition. Thank you that God is. Thank you that peace is. Thank you that no clock can govern what is eternal. Thank you. Thank you. Come back tomorrow night, not to chase a result, but to abide again, because abiding is the life. Each return strengthens the path, not by effort, but by familiarity with what already is. And as we keep this covenant, fear finds no employment, effort loses its case, and peace precedes us into the night. God is, and that's enough to know. God is, that's all. Thank you. Thank you.